It's a survival action game set in a 1950s north of England in a quarantine zone that surrounds a nuclear disaster. It's based loosely on the real Windscale disaster that happened in Sellafield. And then we took the 1950s storytelling style to build a world around that theme. The very earliest start point was Jason Kingsley, one of the founders and owners of Rebellion, noticed that there are a lot of games that have a kind of RPG-ish element or a survival element that are set in like post-atomic disaster environments, but there wasn't one based around the world's first major nuclear disaster, which was Sellafield. So we asked the question, what would happen if you started with that as the trigger point? So the disaster was 1957, north of England, and Rebellion games are often have a kind of pulpy British slant. So that was the very, very start. And then the question was, what would a Rebellion RPG look like? Or a game with RPG-like elements. The creative process has been finding the answer to that question.
So it wasn't like just an excuse to have actual castles.
If you know Jason Kingsley, there may be some castles.
Whatever your start point, if you start doing your research and you start doing exploration, you'll find interesting textural specific details, and that's easier when you've got a real world reference point. Otherwise you just have to make something up. So I mean, you
also the general hate of all things brown and boring. We wanted something that was beautiful and interesting and lush. And I moved over from the States, and I grew up in California where it was very hot and dry all the time. And now I'm here, and it's so green, so lush, so distinctive. And we hadn't seen that, especially for the style of game we're making, you know. A lot of times, post-apocalyptic ones can be very grim. With a few, I mean, you've got Last of Us and a few other exceptions, but we wanted green and lush and very British was part of it, which, a little ironic, I guess. It hired me as an American to come over and make this very British game, but it's like I really appreciate the differences, and I noticed them, and it's been fun.
Yeah, Ryan's been great at pointing out things that we don't even notice are British, you see what I mean? So like dry stone walls, for example, they are just part of the furniture to us, so we wouldn't necessarily notice them. But you know, Ryan flagged, like dry stone walls, when I drive home to Scotland, you might see dry stone walls that are older than America. So having that kind of, those layers of history that we don't even see, has been really helpful.
Got a whole pamphlet of how to assemble them properly.
Brilliant.
Yeah, got it from some dude in the Lake District. I'm inspired by a lot of different things, but definitely like, I think overall mood and stuff from literature is fantastic. Specifics, obviously I will look at reality. We did lots of photo trips up there. We did lots of art trips, scouting trips, photogrammetry, things like that to draw from it. But thinking about where we could add those more out there twists. I mean, a good book gets your brain working real quick. So I've always liked that a lot. Talked to lots of old Lake District residents and got some interesting stories. And so I came back with all these wild ideas and was pitching them at him. And then he was like, oh yeah, we're going for that. And then with the narrative crew getting rolling, definitely leaning into some of that. And that whole balance between, we've got the government side of things in the game that are hashing things up, and we've got the local, rural things that go on in the woods out there. So I mean, that's been a fun area to dance in a little bit and make people wonder what's going on. It feels relatable in some ways, in that we have all heard the old stories. We've all read the old dark fairy tales of what goes on outside of town in the night, you know. One
of the fun examples is that we have gramophones and radios in the game that are playing folk music, and you know, folk music often has that kind of dark fairy tale element to it, and we've been writing it specifically for the game, so it's folk music that evokes the style of the region but at the same time builds on our lore. So you know, a lot of us grew up with sort of pagan cultish storytelling just as part of our culture, and we've been taking advantage of that and turning that into one of the elements of the game.
I really love exploration in general, and especially when I moved over here, I started just wandering. It's like, where does that little footpath go? Where, you know? So I think just really, I'm really proud of our team for the environments we built and the little nooks and crannies that you could come across that maybe something with a little twist to them. It might be just a little natural beauty spot. You see, we've got so many of those that I think players are going to just enjoy roaming and seeing and exploring. taking photos, you know, that kind of thing. So.
For me, it's the leads system in the game. So we don't have a traditional quest structure. And the reason that I'm most sort of proud and excited about this is that this mechanic emerged by itself during production. You know, we discovered it as a mechanic that was the appropriate fit for the game. So you're never given a quest or told what to do. There's no golden path. There's no main quest. As you explore, you'll discover leads, different pieces of information that you kind of piece together and decide to pursue or ignore. You're never told what's true or what's a lie. You're never told who's a goodie or a baddie or anything like that. You're just uncovering information and piecing it together yourself as part of your exploration. What we've aimed to do is make sure that every lead connects to every other lead somehow. So any kind of character interaction or discovery that you make in the game pieces together into one layered story. And that mechanic presented itself as we developed, so it's really exciting to see people engaging with it and seeing them use it.